It's your good buddy Jimbo here, and once again, it's time for the wrestling recap. And who better to talk about what's going on in the wacky world of professional wrestling than WP of the armpitwrestling.com? Got throwing the hyphen in there. So we'll just start at
Sure.
WP, let him introduce himself, and just give us a quick rundown of what's going on the website these days.
Cool, Jimbo. Thank you. Yeah, I run the Armpit website, as you said. Uh, we've been focusing a lot more recently on backstage fights and road stories. That seems to be what people are most interested in clicking on. So we've been trying to do a lot more of those. And of course, there's no shortage of those. You listen to podcasts these days or any shoot interviews, and there's just so many stories from over the years. So we're trying to do that. And in fact, tonight I just posted a 8-page report of the plane ride from hell. You may remember that from 2002.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Yeah.
so what's the most interesting thing that really hasn't become, widely disseminated about that event?
Well, I was under the impression that Vince was on the plane, and he wasn't. I guess which explains a lot of the shenanigans that went on there. There's so many, like Just Incredible and X-Pac have gone on records talking about a few things. You know, the whole Hennig Lesnar skirmish, the Goldust serenading his ex-wife. And I didn't know that JBL and Michael Hayes had gotten kind of into it. It depends on the version you believe. From him getting knocked out to they just kind of had a little tussle, and then he fell asleep because he was so wasted. But a lot of crazy stuff happened on that plane, and I don't think we're ever going to see something like that again, which is probably a good thing.
Oh yeah, I mean you had Ric Flair starting down the aisle with his Space Mountain hanging out. You had X-Pac cutting off Doc Hendricks's ponytail. I mean, lots of hilarious things from that. I can only imagine what the black box recording sounds like.
Oh yeah, good point.
All right, well, moving on to things that are slightly less absurd. We've had Money in the Bank about 2 weeks ago. I know we're a little late covering it, but there's some pretty important fallout from it. So just to begin, what did you think about the main event? Was Baron Corbin the right guy to go over in that event?
I thought the main event saved the show. That was a really, really good match. As far as winning, I never really feel it matters anymore. It's kind of like the Honor the Giant Battle Royal at WrestleMania. They make a big deal about who's going to win, and somebody wins, and then a year later, like nobody even thinks about it. So, I mean, we all know Baron Corbin's going to win the title at some point. I'm higher on him than most people are because I think he has a good look, and he comes across as a real a-hole. I don't know if you want me to say the word, but
You're allowed to. Freedom of speech.
I saw him on Talking Smack one time, and he came across as believable. Like he really doesn't like to be bothered. He's kind of a prick, and he doesn't come across like he's acting like so many of the heels do, like the Miz or some of the divas. So I think that's a positive going for him. I don't think Nakamura needed that win, the Money in the Bank briefcase. I don't think AJ Styles needed it. Ziggler is beyond repair. They just ruined him so much, and probably the same for Sammy. And Owens, of course, has the U.S. title. So yeah, I think Baron's a solid choice, and he's improving every month or so. So I'm happy to see him get that nod.
Yeah, to me, he reminds me a lot of Kevin Nash back in his prime. Do you kind of see that comparison?
In what way?
I don't know, because you got the really tall guy. He has kind of the cocky attitude. I think if you partnered him with someone who's a little bit more flamboyant, I mean, who's the closest guy you have on the roster now to being Shawn Michaels circa 1996?
Only if Kenny Omega come in. That's it.
Oh, that would be beautiful. Wow, that would be just terrific. I can totally see that pairing work.
Yeah, I would have said Dolph Ziggler to your question like that, but he's just been ruined. Just too late for him now.
So how long do you think it'll be before Baron Corbin gets his big title victory?
Whew, hard to say. Um, Probably sooner than later. He's got a decent amount of challengers lined up for him, but he still needs to improve a little bit. Uh, if you watch NXT, you see Drew Galloway. There's a lot of comparisons made with him as far as being similar size, and he's more advanced than Corbin in every possible way. At the same time, I think NXT needs him because they still need to go on draw on the road, and Nakamura was a big loss there. So I think they should keep Galloway there for a little bit longer, and they got some more guys coming NXT to fill some of that gap. But yeah, I think Corbin will get a shot sooner than later.
Yeah, and kind of going back to what you were saying earlier about Money in the Bank being a pretty lackluster show up until the main event. It's been a really good year for WWE pay-per-views, but this one just really, really dragged. Pretty much all the matches, except for the main event, was kind of a filler. Probably the most important undercard bout, obviously, being the Jinder Mahal Randy Orton match. So, how do you think this one fared compared to the previous matches against Wyatt?
I thought that was a really good match, actually. They had a lot of booking. I mean, you had the legends on the side there. You had the Singh brothers. The heat was really good because Orton's in his hometown. So I thought that was, one of the better matches on the card. To me, the wrestling on the show was pretty solid up and down, especially that Usos match. That was better than expected. But the booking was just awful. My God. Horrible, horrible, horrible.
Okay, and you did a really, really great article about Jinder Mahal a couple of weeks ago, written from his perspective. And it kind of ties in what the WWE is doing about trying to sort of make some headway into the, Indian subcontinent market. So, what do you think about what the WWE is doing there? Do you think that's a good marketing strategy or a little bit too much too soon?
Nope, I think it's perfect. It's something that has to be tried. It may fail, it may work, but at this point, you need to try it. Is he the right person for it? I mean, who else really is there? You can't use Kali. The Singh brothers are way too small. Right now, they have no one who fits that bill. I think he's a good fit for it. There's been a debate whether they should have built him up first, to me, you can't really complain at the results so far. Like he's over. When I was at the was it Backlash, the show in San Jose, the crowd reacted to him when he did a run-in at the end, not because he's anything special. They were just so desperate for someone new, some new fresh face on top, and he is that person. And he needs to grow into the role. He needs to be given the chance. It's like in anything, you're more motivated when you know that there's going to be a good result. So he's getting the chance. He's being rewarded. He's working with some good guys there. So I think that at least there's a fighting chance he's going to improve. And it's already been a moderate success in India as far as press coverage goes. And I think the Singh brothers are really good. They're relatively tiny. They make him look bigger than he already is. And they got to be thrilled in this role because they're huge wrestling fans. If you saw the Cruiserweight Classic, they did a video feature on them because they're part of there were two participants in that. So they must be loving this chance they're getting. And to me, it's like I said, something had to be tried. It may fail, it may not. But when you've got someone like Kevin Sullivan on his podcast saying he thinks Jinder's going to draw more money than anyone ever in the history of wrestling, just because of the potential out there for the market that's untapped. And the argument is that, okay, well, Rey Mysterio worked for Mexico and they pushed him because there's a history of Mexican wrestling, which is true. In India, that's the whole point. Like, there is no history like Mexico, so it's a virgin territory. They're easier to win over. The social media numbers, they kind of be inflated a bit. But my God, like I said, the potential is so big that you have to try it.
And now the WWE has actually tried going in India before. Like I remember reading in Bret Hart's book, even like as early as the mid 1990s, they were trying to get into the Bombay and New Delhi markets. So it's not really that original of an idea. Do you think it's going to work in the long haul? Will this open up a new global market for the WWE, or is it just going to be maybe just something they do like once a year to kind of buff the annual revenue?
It depends how much they commit to it. Like, they need to commit to Jinder for the long haul, give him the solid push. You can't do so often they give the guys the green light and they give him the belt and they take it away. So I'm glad he won on Money in the Bank. It shows they're committed to him. And it goes back to your question about Baron Corbin. When's he going to get the title? Well, I hope it's not anytime soon because they really need to commit to Jinder. So, I mean, the fans in India don't want to see their guy be second tier. They need to get him over, and I think they are committed to doing that right now. Population base is not just in India. I mean, I don't know how it is where you live, but my God, Indian population here in the Bay Area is enormous. and it's growing and growing. It's not just you're limited to India; it's everywhere around the whole world.
Oh, I mean, yeah, that's like the entire population of Georgia Tech around here. Like everybody going into
There you go.
engineering is yeah. So yeah, I mean,
Yes,
I think it's a really good strategy. I mean, you already got TNA trying to horn in the territory. They did a show a couple of days ago in India.
right,
So
right.
so if TNA is ripping you off, you're probably doing something right.
Well, they were actually on the forefront of that before WWE, but I have no faith in them to do anything. But when Jinder was on Chris Jericho's podcast a month or so ago, I didn't realize how big of a star Great Khali is over there. He's a literally a household name.
Now, didn't the Great Khali actually do some acting before he went into wrestling?
I'm not sure. I know he was trained out here in the Bay Area, and he had a death lawsuit against the company because he inadvertently killed a student at APW. I'm not sure if he did acting or not, but I was not aware of how much of a mainstream star he is over there, and he's promoted some shows that have drawn really well. If they're smart, they'll leverage him and his name value and his promotional skills to help them promote shows in India for them.
Yeah, and we will see how that turns out shortly. I mean, it could be huge. Maybe one of the hugest, marketing beachheads we've seen in pro wrestling in a while. Now, as far
Yeah.
as the rest of the Money in the Bank show, just any general thoughts? I mean, most of the matches were kind of, hit and miss, kind of throwaway, so probably not a whole lot to say about those.
Just the Money in the Bank women's match was ridiculous that they put all that energy into promoting the first ever one for women and they end it like that. I mean, anyone who hasn't seen wrestling in a while and they go and they watch this, and they see that finish, they go, "Oh God, this is why I stopped watching it in the first place." Just a bullshit gimmick finish. The thing is about wrestling, the psychology has changed from years ago. Where you're coming out and saying, "Okay, this is all work, it's entertainment." So when you try to put heat on the wrestler, it doesn't work. You get heat on the promotion. So they're not booing Ellsworth, they're booing the promotion. And that's you need to fix that, and you fix that by just going back to clean finishes, a sportier product where it's more athletic, more real based. And there's a balance. You can't be just match, 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 all wrestling, no gimmick. There is a balance between that. And that's where the art of creative comes in. But to do that kind of finish on the first show, what you're promoting is this revolutionary match that's going to make history is a huge mistake. Hopefully they'll correct it tonight. I've not seen the show yet as of this time on SmackDown.
Yeah, and talking about the art of wrestling, that's a perfect segue into the next event. We really need to kind of do this like Pardon the Interruption on ESPN, where you have a little ticker on the side going down every like 5 minutes. But yeah, obviously the huge non-US based wrestling news of late. Kenny Omega, Kazuchika Okada, 6.5 stars. WP, I know you're a huge fan of the original match, so what do you think about part two?
Wow. Well, technically 6.25.
Uh,
But
you're
I don't
saving
think
that
it
one for
matters.
later.
Yeah, they're both. eh, People are arguing which is better, and to me, like each match had parts that were better than the other. Each parts had parts that were worse, if you can use that word. But my God, how do you complain about a match like that? I watched it in my kitchen and just like, had it on the background while I'm making breakfast. I was glued to the TV for all 60 minutes and didn't seem like that long at all. They never slowed down. They didn't really build like a lot of 60-minute draws do. They were just bang, bang, bang from the start, and they really gave it all they had. Uh, the only thing that was missing to me was the heat wasn't like the heat should have been for a match that's going to be called the greatest of all time. But then if you watch the show in context, it was following all those great matches on the card, and it was a very long card. So to me, it really couldn't have been any better.
See, I've got you beat. I actually watched it while I was on a treadmill, so I could actually, feel the vicarious, exhaustion from the match. Yeah, just my quick thoughts on the match is first off, there's something very peculiar about wrestling fans, which you don't see in any other type of fandom, and that's this whole idea where everything has to be given a quantitative value. I mean, you never hear a pro football fan saying, well, Super Bowl 47, that was definitely 4.5 stars. But Super Bowl
Right.
49, that was clearly, 4 3/4. So I guess question number one, why is that such an ingrained part of the wrestling community experience? Why are we so concerned about star ratings being, why can't we just accept a match as being great without giving it some sort of numerical backing?
I agree. People are just into to numbers and stats. It's pro wrestling, so we can't really do rankings and stats like real sports do. So it's kind of all we have to go by. Um, the point where it got to ridiculous for me was when the announcers, Kevin Kelly, is talking about the star ratings for the match. That's ridiculous. This is not a performance. It's supposed to be a sport to see who wins. And I thought that um, I thought the announcing that match was pretty bad in some cases, and even Don Callis, I thought he came off as like a bad indie color commentator at some points. Other points they were good, but you're right. It's not about the spectacle, the performance. It's about the match and who wins. And that's the only thing where it kind of felt kind of hokey to me. I doubt the Japanese announcers were saying that. Not that I would know. At the same time, it's a major bragging point and selling point of that match, of the promotion. They're selling a product in America to people like the kind of guys you're talking about who are so into that star rating system. So, in the grand scheme of things, it's a minor point, but it just kind of struck me as a little silly.
Oh yeah, in New Japan Pro Wrestling, I think if you're just an American-based fan, you only watch WWE and some of the indie promotions, you're really missing out. This is becoming a phenomenon. And I'll give you an example. A couple weeks ago, or actually right before Okada Omega 2, I was at an annual retro video game event, and I remember walking around and I saw a guy actually wearing a Bullet Club shirt. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I mean, some
Huh.
guy wearing like a wrestling shirt from Japan. I've never seen it before. It wasn't amazing as much when I saw about four more people wearing them over the course of the day.
Huh.
So, I mean, it's really making a cultural impact here. And I don't know, maybe I'm trying to find, I'm not going to say it's kind of the modern ECW where it's kind of become countercultural, but I think it's certainly making sort of some inroads in the market, maybe even going towards fans who wouldn't traditionally be into the WWE type product. And I think that's something that I really haven't seen a lot of websites pick up on yet.
I hope you're right. My concern is that when I told some friends of mine how great this match was, and they didn't really care. It's like you could have the best match in the world or best match in history, which they did twice this year, and the fans who grew up in the Attitude Era or the '80s they just got different priorities right now. They've got kids that are into politics or whatever, so you're still limited in that sense. I hope they can create some new fans. Uh, New Japan they need a lot of help and work in understanding the American market and marketing to them in a way to where you can go and get New Japan World on your Roku and navigate through in English and their website the same way. They need someone like almost a whole dedicated office or team in place to do that. That's going to hold them back. But we'll see how it goes in Long Beach. Access TV is really supportive of them. That's the good news. I don't know how much upward potential there is on Access, but yeah, they're going to be given the chance. So let's hope they do something with
And of course, going to the Long Beach show, the most important thing going on, the return of Billy Gunn.
it. That's what I mean.
Who's he wrestling at that event? It really threw me for a loop when I first saw it. I can't recall it.
Oh God, I don't know offhand either. Is it? Uh, yeah, I need to look it up, but it's a prominent match, and to me, that's New Japan not understanding the American market. They want to get American on the card, which they don't need because that's not what I feel like. When I saw the card, I'm like, am I going to a glorified indie show or am I going to a New Japan show?
Well, the fact that Cody Rhodes is headlining it is kind of a dead giveaway.
Exactly. I can see part of that. Okay, he's the ROH champion now, and they knew that going in. That's why they booked him like that. But it's, we still don't know the full card for the second day and how the tournament shakes out. Probably a misfire on their part, but it's going to be a success no matter what. It's historic, and they'll learn the lessons going forward.
And of course, we do have Omega Okada lined up as part of G1. I want to say it's August 12th. I could be wrong, so if I am, don't crucify me for it. At this point, just from what we've seen from the first two matches, if you're put on the spot right now, would you say this is better than the Steamboat Flair trilogy from '89?
Oh boy.
Exactly, on the spot.
Yeah, the funny thing, it's a similar pattern. I mean, you had the tease of a 60-minute draw in their second match, and their third match I thought was the best of all. It's unfair to compare because it's a different time and day. Obviously, these matches are superior, but as relative to their time, yeah, I think it does nudge past them because it's such a gap between their matches and what else is going on these days. At the same time, the Flair and Steamboat were hovering around 40 years old at that point, and you can't complain about any of those matches either.
I mean, for me, it's so hard to kind of, quantify what makes something a greatest of all time type match. But I think it's there in the title. You need time to determine what's great because there's a lot of stuff that happened in 1989, 1990, even going back to, the late 90s, early 2000s, where people just blew up saying it was the greatest ever. And you go back and watch it now and it has no longevity, it has no impact. I mean, I remember back when the day you had the RVD Jerry Lynn matches. People were freaking out about those, and now they're almost embarrassing. So for me, I think it really takes time. You got to see the industry go forward. And I think if it's a really great match, like the Ric Flair stuff, the Ricky Steamboat stuff, the Misawa and Kawada stuff, that's timeless. It's going to, have an impact forever. I think it's still a little bit too early to see if the Okada Omega stuff has that sort of timeless quality, but I'm kind of leaning more towards that it is. But like I said, you got to wait. I know we're very impatient people.
That's a lot. Those are good points. At the same time, you do wrestle for the here and now, so it depends how the business evolves. Even Flair Steamboat today, you go back and look, the selling is even better than you see today in the psychology, and the fact they were winging it out there for the most part. That can't be topped by anything today, even Omega Okada. At the same time, as a fan, we shouldn't really care if it's on the fly or choreographed, as long as the match is good. I don't recall Chi-Town Rumble being called the greatest match of all time, the way the first Omega Okada was. So I think it does have it beat in that regard.
All right, and we'll switch gears here and head into the upcoming WWE show. But very quickly, I know it's outside of the pro wrestling purview, but it certainly has a very pro wrestling-like dynamic. Do you have any thoughts on the Conor McGregor Floyd Mayweather fight and just the hullabaloo around
that? Not really. I mean, obviously it's going to be a one-sided fight, and Conor's job, which he's very good at, is to sell it as he's going to at least be even or beat him. And if Floyd is smart, he'll sell that the same way. But even if it's a blowout, like, fans still want to tune in to see it. And he's going to make a fortune that night. So, I mean, I would go in there with Floyd Mayweather and make that kind of money and then get destroyed too. Who wouldn't, right?
Yeah. Lots of boxers in the past have done it for way less money. I mean, you got James Buster Douglas, perfect example of that.
Right. UFC is going to make a decent amount of money too, and I'm really concerned about their future. They've spent so much money on that. WME, I mean, they spent so much money on UFC, ridiculous amount, way too much, and the interest payments they got to make. And I mean, Ronda Rousey and Conor McGregor were the two people who made them UFC put in that position, and Ronda is either gone or no longer has that drawing power, and Conor may be gone after this. So after that, then what? You're going to bank on television rights fees that may not be there? That's a huge gamble.
And do you have a prediction for the pay-per-view buy rate? Will this be the all-time champ?
Oh, no idea. I don't follow UFC or boxing close enough to venture a guess. We'll know, like in the past, in the final 2 days, and no one really knows how it's going to go.
See, now the one thing about this match, and really Floyd Mayweather, why hasn't anyone told me how great the Big Show Mayweather match was? Like, I didn't watch that until like 5 days ago. I was blown away at how good that structure of that match was.
Are you being facetious?
Oh no, I mean I'm serious. Like I legitimately loved it because it told the kind of story that you never see in wrestling anymore. Like you had the entourage getting beat up, and you had the slow build around the gloves, and you had the chair shots which looked crappy, but still, I mean I just loved it. It was like old school, like Memphis style. Spike Dudley taking on Bam Bam Bigelow stuff that you never see anymore. I just loved it.
Oh, cool. I should check it out. I don't think I remember that any of that.
And that's a perfect example of a match everybody hated back in the day, which somehow has gotten better over 10 years. I don't know how it happened, just one of those fluky things of the universe.
And the angles leading up to it were good too.
Exactly. And just to wrap up, we've got the worst title for a pay per view in history coming up in July. Great Balls of Fire. I'm not sure why they called it that. I mean, I guess Tutti Frutti was too on the nose. So yeah, the two big main matches here: Samoa Joe taking on Brock Lesnar and Braun Strowman taking on Roman Reigns. Just very quickly, what are your thoughts on these two matches? I really want to focus more on Joe and Lesnar, so let's kind of get the Roman Reigns Braun Strowman match out of the way first.
Okay, yeah, I'm more intrigued about how they're going to go forward with the booking because they're holding off Roman Reigns and Lesnar for WrestleMania, and that now the way it's going, you kind of expect it for SummerSlam. So very interested in seeing how that one ends up because Strowman won the last match and Reigns won their match earlier in the year. Um, Reigns, he can take a loss and still be over. You saw the angle on Raw. He was, booing or cheering. He gets the loudest reaction of anyone. And Strowman was a face in the way he destroyed them. So, they'll have a good match. Again, I'm just more concerned about who wins that and where they go from there.
Now, has there ever been a good ambulance match before in the history of wrestling?
None that come to my head.
Like the last I remember seeing was what was it? Mike Awesome taking on Vampiro, like in 2000. I just don't see how that can be. I mean, as long as it's only like a component at the end of the match, maybe it can be good. But I just think having that gimmick just really kind of cheapens the whole experience. But that's just my opinion.
Well, at least it plays into the storyline because of how he
Yeah.
destroyed Roman at one time. So I think that's a minor point.
All right, and if you would have told me 10 years ago that we'd be watching WWE, and one of the biggest shows of the year, the main event would be Brock Lesnar taking on Samoa Joe, my head would have exploded. This is such a crazy out there dream match. It's like something you do on, Fire Pro Wrestling on the Game Boy. Just something that doesn't seem like it could be possibly real. So, is my anticipation for this match misguided? Am I just setting myself up for disappointment here?
Well, if it was a WrestleMania match, I'd say no, they'll deliver. But since it's not, it's kind of a one-off at this point. And after what happened with Goldberg and Lesnar last year, it was just a 30-second match. I really hope they don't do that again. It's a shame that we can't really sink our teeth into this match and have it mean more. I do think, though, that they're seeing it's catching on, so they might prolong it a bit or make something more out of it. That's the good news. The other good news is that anything involving Paul Heyman is going to have his booking fingerprints on it. Like, you leave it to Vince and the writers, they're going to screw it up. You put Heyman in there, he's going to make it work because he knows how to book. He knows wrestling, which makes you scratch your head, think, well, why isn't he booking the whole show? But he's not. He's just doing those segments, and that's why Lesnar Goldberg worked. That's why this is working because Heyman is in charge. He has input, and the performances of him and Lesnar and Joe, they're all believable. They all have the leeway to do their own thing, and so far it's been perfect build-up.
Yeah, and I mean, the consensus right now is most people are thinking clearly you're going to have Brock Lesnar go over in this match, and you're kind of 50-50 on Roman Reigns or Braun Strowman winning it. Obviously, they want to do Brock against Roman for WrestleMania, so it seemed like the common sense thing to do would be Braun versus Brock at SummerSlam. But do you think maybe there might be a little variable here? Do you think the WWE might pull the trigger on actually giving Samoa Joe the upset victory?
I don't think they're going to give him the upset victory. I do think that there's a possibility of Reigns going over and him facing Brock at SummerSlam. That's if anything changes, I think that might be it. What do you do for WrestleMania though is a question. So that's why it's really interesting to see how this goes, how this plays out.
Yeah, definitely. And so far, I mean, I guess we're going to do Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar for the SummerSlam main event. What are your early predictions for the undercard?
Uh, Probably Jinder and boy, hard to say who he's going to face. I do think AJ and Nakamura will be on that card. They tease it heavily on the Money in the Bank match. That's going to be a key match for sure.
Oh wow, the great Tokyo Dome rematch. I'm looking forward to that one.
Yep, yep. And then probably uh, something prominent with Finn Balor and Rollins and Wyatt there. I don't know. I've been so focused on Joe and Lesnar, I haven't really given much thought to the undercard yet.
Yep, and just to kind of wrap up our just long in the tooth review of all these things going on in the wrestling world, I have to leave with a prediction. This is one of my patented Jimbo. I said it first. Nobody's gonna believe me, but when it happens, you're gonna look back on me as a genius. Here's what I think is gonna happen. I think Paul Heyman is going to turn on Brock Lesnar at Great Balls of Fire and team up with Samoa Joe.
Really?
And I think they're going to extend that out for maybe another 6 months, and they're still going to have the lead into Roman Reigns and Brock. But I think just for that, they're going to throw that little monkey wrench in there, and I don't know. I think it'll be a great match. I think it'll actually be a match of the year contender, and if they stick to it, we could have some great stuff coming up.
That's interesting. Interesting idea.
Just,
That would actually be a great team, those two.
remember, I said it first.
You said it first, and he's no stranger to managing a Samoan team. He had the SST back in the day.
Oh wow, yeah! I actually was watching what was it, the Great American Bash '89 a couple of weeks ago with the first pay-per-view War Games.
Uh-huh.
Man, that was great.
That's a classic pay-per-view, one of the best of that decade.
Without question, I agree with you there. All right, well, just to wrap up, anything else coming up on the radar? Any events? Any indie shows going on that we want to keep our eye out for?
I leave Friday morning and drive down to Long Beach, so I'm stoked about that. I got really good seats for both shows, so that's what I'm focused on right now. And whether it's a great show or not, it's a moment in history, decades in the making. So I'm really looking forward to doing that.
All right, and as far as stuff we got coming up in the R pit, any upcoming articles or parodies you've been working on that you're really proud to show us?
God, I'm trying to catch up. The Q2 greatest matches ever is coming up this soon, and I'm so behind on watching all the matches. I'm trying to cram those in. I may have to forego the sunshine in Long Beach and stay in the hotel and just crank those out, write up the reviews, and post those soon because I want that to become a big part of the site. And my God, so many great matches this quarter. You just can't keep up.
Well, I mean, you can talk about great matches, but you can't miss watching Billy Gunn live in person. So I'd advise going against that. All right, well, it's a
Yeah.
pleasure as always, WP. The one thing I really want to get into, but it's going to take way too much time into this for the next video, the DDP yoga program. Just very quickly, how has that changed your life?
I love it. I'm coming up on the 3-month mark this week, and I thought it was I didn't think it was a scam. I just thought, what's this? Yoga? What made me want to do it was hearing Chris Jericho say that he moves around and feels younger than he did before. He felt like an old man. And, I'm 40 years old. I spent a lot of years lifting weights, even though I don't look like it. But I don't want to be old and have those aching, creaking joints one day. So I said, let me give it a try. And if I get decent results in a few months, then I'll maybe consider selling my gym equipment, because DDP only does this. He doesn't do anything else. He just does the yoga. And same with Jericho. And after 2 weeks, I said, this is it. My body's changed like I would not believe. And I'm skinny anyway. I'm not fat, so I have no weight to lose. But the way it just shifted whatever weight I do have to the right places. My knee pain went away, my back pain went away, and I feel much better. I sound like a corny infomercial, but it's true. It really does work. It's the real deal.
So would it be accurate to say that you are, and I quote, feeling the bang?
Not only that, but I'm at work. I find myself doing the diamond cutter just to stretch out my back in my cubicle when no one's looking.
You know, I always said you're a pro wrestling fan when you hear "Smells Like Team Spirit" and your first impulse is to diamond cut somebody.
Well, that kind of music would make you want to do that.
Yeah, there are so many great metal albums the WWE could have used. There are great Balls of Fire. There's Appetite for Destruction. I mean, you got all these great hair metal band album titles. Never get used.
I'm gonna stick up for Great Balls of Fire. At least it's a recognizable tune. Given the WWE age group these days is so much older, and it way better than some of the other music they got going. And you can't deny the success of SummerSlam '98 when they used Highway to Hell, AC/DC. I mean, that to me, that was a very underrated component of why that pay-per-view was one of their most successful in their history. I mean, the marketing of a recognizable song with the name of the show is a no-brainer. At the same time, it's genius. So, people are talking about it. It's a catchy tune. People know it. So, hey, I'm going to be the lone defendant of this pay-per-view title.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, if you want to equate your product with a guy who married his 13-year-old cousin, it's not on me. All right, well, WP, it is a pleasure as always. The armpits-wrestling.com, my favorite pro wrestling parody compilation match guide out there. Any final words for us?
Not at all. Thank you for having me on. Always a pleasure, and appreciate everything.
Absolutely, WP. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll be seeing you back here shortly.
All right, take care.
Thank you.